how did your TEDx talk affect the hot sauce principle?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
tell us. Those seem to me to be. Well, tell us. How did that take place? I see you got a copy of it behind you, but how did that take place?
Yeah. So the book I released last year is called The Hot Sauce Principle. It's how to live and lead in a world where everything is urgent all the time. So it turns out that anxiety or urgency, we could call it that, it's the same thing, is one of the most contagious emotions in the workplace. And what most folks do, what most leaders do, is they're taught, rightfully so in some cases, that you got to drive urgency, right? Glenn, we need to drive urgency around here. And urgency is like hot sauce. I mean, it's and I love hot sauce. I'm holding a
Yep,
little bottle of
yep,
Tabasco right now as I'm
yep,
talking to you,
yeah.
and I do love it. It creates focus, it creates flavor. Gets
Mhm.
gets me a little sweaty. Um, and a little bit of hot sauce is a great thing. But if everything that comes out of our kind of leadership kitchen is covered in hot sauce, the appetizer and the entree and the salad and the brownie at the end, the iced tea, I mean, people are going to be curled up in a ball and they're going to be
Yeah,
overwhelmed. And
right,
so
right.
I wrote the book because I wanted people to understand it's a powerful emotion, urgency. And sometimes we need to use it when we're trying to drive change. But if you overdo it, you're going to cause more harm than good. So that's really the tie-in. It was almost like I took that whole big pie of emotional contagion and I took off a little slice and did a deep dive into it. And the slice was urgency and specifically anxiety.
Okay. Hey, how long between your TED Talk and that book? What year did you do your TED Talk?
Oh, boy, you're going to ask me that question. I want to say that was 2017 or 2018. I want to say
So 3 years between the TED Talk
that
and
feels
the
about
book.
right.
So
Time flies.
you had a lot of things taking place. What about you have a podcast, the Workplace Therapist Show.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, and more specifically, I'm sure still the theme runs through from your TEDx talk, does it?
Yeah, it does.
From what I'm read. Um, as it runs through there, tell us a little bit about that show. Why did you do it?
Yeah. So originally I had done, so I've got my site is one of my, I guess, sites is the workplacetherapist.com.
Mm-hmm.
And originally it was just a resource site to help people it's a free site. And I did blog posts every week and I would post articles and interviews and everything else to help folks. And what I realized about 4 or 5 years ago is that folks weren't consuming their content via blog anymore. They were moving to podcast. So I shifted medium to the podcast as another way to help people get content while they are in motion, right? While they're commuting to work, while they're going for a walk, while they're doing the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
whatever happens to be. And so that was my initial reason for doing it. And originally we started off really just taking on this big bucket of curing and eliminating workplace dysfunction.
Right.
And since the podcast world has gotten so big, we've narrowed our focus a little bit to how to help you have healthier conversations and better relationships at work. So the focus of the show really is around that: healthier conversations, because we can all get better at that, and healthier and better relationships at work.
So that's where I see a tie-in right there between emotional mask and having a healthier conversation. Self-awareness, self-assessment, those type of things.
Yeah.
So you would agree with that?
Yeah,
kind of runs through there. Okay.
absolutely.
Driving you back a little bit toward the TED Talk, because I still have questions about that TEDx talk. I have the question that's sitting in my mind about that particular talk right now is when I listened to it, I had my own points. But what it was 1, 2, or 3 major points that you wanted people. So if you listen to it, say, make sure you get these 2 or 3 things from this as you listen to it.
Yeah, I would probably. So I'm going to give you kind of the 2021 updated version of those points. Okay. So it may not be in the TED Talk, but now you can go back and watch the TED Talk and you've got the kind of updated version. So first, I would say be really, really aware. We can all be really, really aware of the emotions we're carrying to work every day and asking ourselves, is this how we want to show up today? I think that's the first question. And second question is this how I'd want the folks around me to not only experience me, but to feel as well? So I think that's a really important question for leaders because, when we need to motivate or inspire or kind of keep people focused, how can we do that better? So I would say that's the first one. The second one is, even more basic than that, there's always an opportunity to spread positive emotion in your daily walk through the world. So when you have that server that brings you a meal, look up at her or him and just give a smile and say thank you. When you have someone hold the door open for you, or you hold the door open for somebody else, look them in the eye and say thank you. It's all these smaller moments that we really desperately need now, probably more than ever, just to be showing that kindness and that generosity to each other. And we need it. We need it for ourselves, but we also, the folks around us need it too. So look for those moments to spread positive.